Well, get those life vest zipped and clips, strap down those rods, and stow away those tackle bags because we are going fishing. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Bass 2 Anglers podcast. I'm your host, Keith Neiswanger, and I hope this episode finds you with 5 for 25 stored in your Bubba Pro Series Smart Fish Scale, integrated seamlessly with Major League Fishing's Score Tracker. A special reminder to you, yes, you, the one that's watching right now. Now, watching the Bass 2 Anglers podcast on YouTube, Instagram, or any of our podcast platforms can save you money. Simply go to copperstatetackle.com, fill up your shopping cart with bass fishing awesomeness, use our promo code BTAP, BTAP1, BTAP1, and save 10% on your next purchase. You're going to buy tackle, right? Of course you are. Why not save some money? Use our promo code BTAP1.
Get her done!
You know that the Bass 2 Anglers podcast is always the first to call out tournament organizations when they screw up. No information rule, ridiculousness, 3-hour-long weigh-ins, using a failed technology, the truth verification tests, to determine DQs, the list goes on. We've called out the organizations when they've misbehaved. Well, it's only fair that we congratulate organizations when they get something right. So here goes. All three of the major players in the tournament world have gone somewhat different directions when it comes to forward-facing sonar and its challenges this season. The NPFL, they simply banned the technology altogether. Yeah, I don't know how creative that is. They just simply banned the technology altogether. BASS installed a screen limit of 55 inches and just a single transducer. And Major League Fishing's Bass Pro Tour limited forward-facing sonar to just one of their 3 fishing periods each tournament day. Last week, Major League Fishing's Bass Pro Tour finished up its season in Michigan at Saginaw Bay on Lake Huron, one of the Great Lakes. Jacob Wheeler won the event, his 10th Bass Pro Tour win, and with that sewed up his 4th Angler of the Year title. Absolutely amazing. The Saginaw Bay event is the Bass Pro Tour's equivalent of the Northern Swing, which is what we've become accustomed to in recent years with all the professional tournament organizations. BASS, Major League Fishing, they have a Northern Swing in the hot summer months because the fishing in the north is better than other parts of the country during those brutal summer months. By the way, the sick part of me has always wanted to see a pro event at Southern California's Lake Perris on the 4th of July. I'd love to see those pros deal with the mayhem that takes place out there. Yeah, that's why the major tours swing north during the summer. They want to catch fish. The Northern Swing has always meant 2 things: smallmouth bass fishing, and in more recent years, forward-facing sonar. Maybe not the best viewing combination for fans who like to watch streamed events. Like any Great Lakes bass tournament in the summer, the offshore smallmouth fishing was going to be in play at the Saginaw Bay event last week. However, this is why Major League Fishing's Bass Pro Tour's forward-facing sonar rule is the best response to the technology's controversial history. I was watching Jacob Wheeler's practice blog. I'm a YouTube junkie. I got to admit it. I watch a lot of this stuff. But anyways, I was watching Jacob Wheeler's practice blog, and Wheeler said something that I found to be really, really interesting. After his first day of practice, Wheeler said, "While there are good smallmouth out there, I don't think I can catch them good without forward-facing sonar." The implication being there that he was going to only be able to use forward-facing sonar for 1 period, which means 2 of the 3 periods he wasn't going to be able to get on those fish, and he felt like he really needed the technology to catch those fish well. As we know, Major League Fishing's Bass Pro Tour forces anglers to choose which of their 3 periods they use their forward-facing sonar, and as Wheeler stated, without forward-facing sonar on those 2 periods, he didn't feel like he could catch them, so he spent his second day of practice up shallow looking for largemouth. The impact of Major League Fishing's forward-facing sonar rule on that Saginaw Bay event was that it forced anglers to target fish in shallow water, and the shootout on Championship Sunday was one for the books. Ultimately, Wheeler held off Todd Fairclough and Edwin Evers, but the event came down to the last minutes of the final day, and it all came on shallow water power fishing. So, congratulations to Major League Fishing for selecting a forward-facing sonar policy that allows the technology but forces anglers to rely on all their talents when it comes to winning time. Caymas Boats, from the mind of Earl Bentz. Excellence, tradition, and service, all part of the Caymas advantage. On the water perfection. This is your next boat. Build your next boat at CaymasBoats.com. Duckett Fishing, pro-driven rods, reels, and baits. The choice of champions. Check out DuckettFishing.com to see what everybody's talking about. Duckett Fishing, pro-driven. Major League Fishing also runs the Tackle Warehouse Invitational Tour, which is essentially a qualifying tour for the BPT. Nothing new there. You guys know that. The invitationals are right on par with the NPFL and the BASS Elite Series, as anglers must qualify via the Toyota Series to be able to fish these events. The invitationals have their own forward-facing sonar rules. Essentially, anglers can use the technologies on days 1 and days 3. I got a tip from a viewer. Thank you, by the way. You know who you are. Maybe it was a challenge to look at the Major League Fishing Tackle Warehouse Invitational Circuit standings throughout the season. Take a look, viewer said, at the day 1 and day 2 standings and do a comparison of the forward-facing sonar day, which is day 1, and the non-forward-facing sonar day, which is day 2. You know, I like a challenge, and I'm a statistics junkie, so I dove into it. What I found was that typically anglers in the top 10 were on fish consistently, and it didn't really seem to matter whether it was a forward-facing sonar day or not. But that makes sense, right? If you're good, you're good. Although, on offshore events like Pickwick, Smith Lake, and Hartwell, where forward-facing sonar is going to be a factor and was a factor, the day 2 dip in weights was noticeable. Not in every top 10 angler's weight, but in an amount that was noticeable. So yeah, that day 2 dip on those forward-facing sonar lakes was noticeable. Where the difference in day 1 and day 2 was very obvious was in the anglers that were around the top 30 cut. So the invitational tournaments, you have a day 1 forward-facing sonar day. Day 2, no forward-facing sonar. That's the cut. Top 30 only fish on day 3, another forward-facing sonar day. Looking at the top 30 cut line after day 2, there is a clear definition between those who caught them with technology and then couldn't keep it going without the technology on day 2. It also identified anglers that could catch them without the technology on the second day. There's a lot of flaws in my research here. I don't pretend to be a scientist. I don't know what each angler's day on the water was like in every event, so we're not going to be publishing this information in any scientific journals. But there were some interesting movements on the leaderboards that happened between day 1 and day 2. The bottom line, Major League Fishing has got it right. Even in their invitationals, they have figured out the format that pushes the best overall anglers to the top of the standings. You can't just be a good scoper, you have to be a complete angler. Reason number 8 that your next boat should be a Caymas. Caymas Cash. Do you fish tournaments? Now you have up to 10,000 reasons to run a Caymas. Today, many boat brands offer contingency programs, but none of them deliver bigger payouts than Caymas Cash. With over 1,000 sanctioned events each season, you could win $10,000 for a win in a platinum event or $2,500 for being the highest finisher in a Caymas boat. There are silver and bronze events that will get you paid as well. Check out our Caymas Cash contingency program by going to CaymasBoats.com and find out why it pays to run a Caymas. This might be a little controversial. Jacob Wheeler is the most dominant bass angler of all time. Yep, I said it. Okay, I can hear the voices. What about KVD? What about Rick Clunn? What about others? KVD and Rick Clunn have finished long careers that saw them constantly around the top of the sport. So saying that Jacob Wheeler is the most dominant might not be a fair comparison, but you got to consider this also. Jacob Wheeler may not even be at the midpoint of his career yet. He could be fishing another 20 or 25 years. But as I said, Jacob Wheeler is still the most dominant angler of all time. Okay, so here we go. Not only does Wheeler win far more than his share of events and Angler of the Year titles, he's in full control of his own narratives. This is something that I've been on recently with my talk about the Zaldanes and others. And it's how bass anglers control their own narratives. They don't need a tournament organization to be able to get the message out that they want. Okay, consider this. Jacob Wheeler's YouTube account has 180,000 subscribers. Wheeler's videos on YouTube generally draw 50,000 plus views. Wheeler's Instagram account has 266,000 followers. And those are the only two socials that I even looked at. So there may be more. Wheeler's social numbers rival what organizations can produce. And remember, the organizations, they divide time up amongst all their anglers. So when we talk about Jacob Wheeler's impressions, that's the word we used to use, his impressions are on par with what the tournament organizations are making. It's pretty impressive. Wheeler can control his own narrative without having to rely on a tournament organization, which in the world of professional bass fishing is a big deal. Additionally, because of his fishing dominance, Wheeler gets hours of screen time because often he has a camera boat in a BPT event, at least at some point, and sometimes it's every day. Is Wheeler the greatest angler of all time? That's a tough one, and it's a question that really can't be answered yet. KVD and Rick Clunn both had fishing careers that lasted several decades, while Wheeler has been fishing at the top level of the sport for about 14 years. Keep in mind, I'm in no way taking anything away from KVD or Rick Clunn. They are two of the absolute greatest. But when you add fishing experience to the social media prowess, Jacob Wheeler is the most dominant angler of all time. How is your jig head minnow game? Introducing Duckett Fishing's Sway Minnow System. Not just a bait, an entire fishing system. Perfectly balanced jig heads in several fish catching sizes matched up with the most realistic looking winged minnow baits that you've ever seen. With multiple size baits and jig head weights, you'll be able to figure out the perfect presentation. Check out the Duckett Fishing Sway Minnow System by going to duckettfishing.com. Chris Zaldane is doing it again. As I record this, the final BASS Elite Series event of the season is going down on the Mississippi River out of Wisconsin, and Chris and Trait are doing their live stream. I can't take my eyes off the screen. Actually, my second screen is right here, and I should turn it off because it's hard for me to not watch it while it's going on. I need to concentrate. I also found a couple of other anglers at this event that are live streaming the event. I didn't know. Logan Parks, Matt Robertson have a live stream going of their own, and it's fascinating to watch the cast-to-cast micro decisions that are being made live on the water. It's just, I mean, these guys are not catching fish every cast like we see on the live broadcast. We're watching it. We're watching the high levels of emotion and the low levels of doubt, and it's fascinating to watch it. I just don't see this on the live broadcast that jump from angler to angler based upon who's catching them. Again, I know what you're thinking. Come on, Keith. This has been going on all season. Why are you so late to the party? I'm guilty. I don't know why I didn't know this was all going on. Although in my defense, I watch what YouTube tells me to watch. And lately, YouTube wants me to watch videos of politicians behaving badly. So that's my excuse. But it's very cool to see these guys live streaming their events. I find it far more interesting to watch than the catch every cast that we see on the live broadcasts. Chris and Trait have this dialed in very well. Even when Chris doesn't have a marshal in the boat, his constant dialogue gives tremendous insight to what he's thinking. Here's what I suggest. Get yourself a second monitor or split the screen on your computer during these BASS Elite Series events, and watch the live on one part of on one screen and watch the Zaldain broadcast on the other. I think you'll find that it's far more compelling to watch the individual angler and the struggles that he's going through on a day-to-day basis. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I think this is the best thing to come along in the bass fishing live stream era. It just is fascinating to me. I see possibilities where anglers can really boost their value to sponsors and how they can endear themselves to fans of the sport. Reason number 15 why your next boat should be a Caymas: our high-speed live well pickup. Fish mortality is a big deal on today's tournament trails. Introducing Caymas's high-speed live well pickup. Now you can take great relief knowing that as you fly down the lake, your precious cargo will be getting fresh water to make sure they are healthy for the weigh-in scales. Build your next boat by going to CaymasBoats.com. I was having this discussion with a buddy the other day, and it kind of turned into a debate. The question that I ask is, what is more important to bass fishing success, water temperature or photo period? As bass anglers, the first thing we do when we launch our boats every day is we turn on our monitors to see what the temperature is. I suppose in checking the water temperature, we're trying to kind of get a feel for how aggressive the bass might be that day. We're trying to get a feel for just kind of the speed of the world that the bass are living in, because we associate bass aggression with water temperature. I know when a cold front passes through, the water temp drops 5 or 10 degrees. We're going to notice changes in fish behavior. I don't think this is anything new to most of you. I think we're very tuned in to water temperature. But I'm guessing that photo period might not be something that you think about very often. I know that I'm noticing sunup is coming a little later these days. We're here in late August, and it's around 6:30-ish, where I live anyway, before we really start to see the sun coming up. I mean, I feel like it was coming up much earlier, a month ago, because it was. So what is photo period? Let's talk about that for a minute. What is photo period? Photo period is a term that's most often used when we're talking about plants. I don't know how often you're talking about plants, but think about it. If you're a bass fisherman, grass and aquatic vegetation is very important to you. So talking about photo period is very appropriate. In the context of plant biology and horticulture, it refers to the length of daylight or darkness in a 24-hour period. It's a critical factor that influences plant growth and development. Maybe you see where I'm going with this right now. The summer to fall transition, I think, is where photo period really begins to have an important effect on bass behavior. Not because bass are going to notice that it's still dark at 6:30 in the morning. No, it's more because they're going to begin to notice that the abundant living grass beds that they have related to in the summer months is starting to die off. I'm sure, like me, you love to fish healthy living grass. The grass photosynthesizes. You did pay attention in high school biology, didn't you? Photosynthesis, it helps oxygen levels in shallow water, makes it comfortable for bass and the food they eat. You knew that, right? Okay, making sure. Living grass is the home of microorganisms, crawdads, bait fish, and really the entire food chain for the bass in the summertime. As the photo period shortens, grass gets less direct sunlight, and those wonderful grass beds begin to die. Think about this, and remember what I said, come September and October. There'll be very little living grass in our lakes, and you'll wonder, gosh, where did the bass go? How come they're not up shallow like they were? Well, as those days shorten, as the photo period shortens, as the sun becomes less direct, you're going to see these grass beds start to die off, and when they die off, the fish leave. They go somewhere else. This is the biggest thing about finding fish in the fall, is where do they go when the grass starts to die off? So while water temperature is very important, I think it's especially important in the springtime. I find that 60 degrees is that magic temperature that brings bass into the shallows. I do think that photo period might be the most important factor, particularly in the last part of the summer with the onset of fall. I would love to hear your thoughts about this. Again, please drop a response or drop a question or a comment down below. What's more important to you, water temperature or photo period? I'm Keith Neiswanger. This is the Bass Tour Anglers podcast. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you'd like to reach us, please send us a direct message on Instagram at Bass Tour Anglers Podcast. Take care. Be safe. We'll talk to you next time.